I have been working my way through the book of Job, and I started with chapter 1, looking at the grammar, followed by a grammatical or a commentary, seeking to look at pretty much every verse and the grammatical analysis inductively. I'm doing it inductively. We've already finished chapters 1 through 31. We've also finished chapters 38 to 42. And now we are on the words of Elihu. And this is found in chapter 32, 1 to 37, 24. So, having come to an end of the speeches between Job and his friends, we come to a monologue in the text by Elijah. Having listened to all the arguments of Job's older friends, Elihu, unable to contain himself anymore, breaks out in a monologue. His idea is that God, in his sovereignty, is disciplining Job to improve his character. I'm of the opinion that Elihu is part of the original composition of Job. There are those who believe that it was added later. I think it honestly fits into the overall flow of thought of the book of Job. And I don't find the Hebrew to be that different, really. But at any rate, seeing Elihu then, at this point, his patience is exhausted. We see this in chapter 32, 1 to 22. So, what is happening here is Elihu is upset with Job's claim of self righteousness. After having given the older men a chance to speak, Elihu feels he must speak to set the record right concerning Job's suffering. So in verses 1 to 6, we have the text written in prose. Beginning in verse 7, where the speech begins, the style then will return to poetry. So we begin at verse 1. It reads, Vayishbatu shaloshet ha'anashim ha'ela me'anot et Eov ki hu tzadik be'enav. So, these three men, the three that Job was debating with, ceased to answer, to give an answer to Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. Vayishbatu is from Shabbat. It's the cow imperfect third common plural or third masculine plural from Shabbat with a vav consecutive. So these three men ceased from answering Job. May anot, anot is from anah, to answer. It's an infinitive construct, cow infinitive construct, preceded by the mem. And notice the noon here of the men as elided, and we have compensatory lengthening under the mem from a hirig to a seri. So these three men ceased from answering Job, for he was righteous in his own eyes. In other words, Job certainly felt that he was righteous. So what we have here is this was not the reason that they had ceased speaking. I think they had exhausted themselves in an attempt to prove that Job was unrighteous, and they were not able to really verify that or prove that. So we read on in the next verse, verse 2. Vayachar af Elihu ben Barcheel Habuzi Hamishpachat Rab Be'iyov Hara Apo outside Ko Nafsho Me Elohim. Then was the anger or the wrath of Elihu, the son of Berachai, the Buzite, kindled. So Elihu becomes angry. Notice kindled here was kindled, that is, the anger of Elihu, the Buzite, was kindled. From the root hara, to kindle, it's a cow imperfect third masculine singular from hara with a vav consecutive or a vav conversive. And the anger of Elihu, then the son of Berachel Habuzite, of the family Mimishpachat Ram, from the family of Ram, was kindled against Job, Be'iyov, because he justified himself. Hara apo, his anger was kindled, a sadko, because to justify his soul, me Elohim. That is, that he justified himself before God, or rather than God. Vayachar is the cow imperfect third masculine singular from hara. So the wrath was kindled of Elihu, the son of Berachel Habuzite, of the family of Ram, against Job. His wrath was kindled. Against Job was his wrath kindled. Why? Because sadku, to justify himself. Here we have a PL infinitive construct followed by the pronominal suffix in the O, that he justified his own soul. From nefesh nafsho, and construct with O, the pronominal suffix third masculine singular, instead of rather than God. So as we look at verse 2, the thought is here that Job was able to justify himself, and his friends could not find an accusation. A word about Elihu. Elihu means God is Yahweh. My God is Yahweh, or God is Yahweh. But Achel means God blesses. Both his and Elihu's names indicate devotion to God and separation from idolaters. Buzite, Buz is the son of Nahor, Abraham's brother. His name came to be associated with a particular region of the Arabian desert. We see this in Jeremiah chapter 25, verse 23. Ram refers to Aram, the nephew of Buz, and probably to an area in the northern part of the Euphrates River. Job was probably then older than Elihu. Elihu's family background does not specifically link him with the descendants of Nahor. More detail is given concerning Elihu than any of the other men, though. Elihu could have written the book of Job, but it is more likely that he was less well known than Job's three friends, and thus required a better introduction. Elihu solves the problem which the book is talking about, or he seems to solve it. Uh, that is, God is testing Job, disciplining him. Acknowledge the idea of the acknowledgement. He was angry that Job attempted to vindicate himself rather than trying to vindicate God's ways. So Job attempted to vindicate himself, and this angers Elihu. See further in the background, chapter 9, verses 30 to 31, and chapter 13, verses 18 to 23. So then as we move on to verse 3, Uvishlosheth re'av chara apo al asher lo matza'u ma'aneh vayarshi'u et Iyov. That is, also against three friends was his wrath kindled. Against three of his friends, hara apo, his wrath was kindled, because al asher, because they had found no answer. Lo matsu'u ma'aneh, and yet had condemned Job. Vayarshi'u et Iyov. So he's also angry against the three friends of Job. And notice as we read on, they did not find Matsu'u is the cow perfect. Third masculine plural from Matzah. They did not find an answer. And furthermore, yet they were caused to condemn Job. Yarshia from Rasha. Here we have a hifil, imperfect, third masculine third masculine plural from Rasha. Notice we have a pathak followed by the hirik yod, an AI thematic vowel pattern showing that we're looking at a hifil stem. So they really were caused to condemn Job, even though they found no answer that they were trying to find. So as we think about this particular verse, Job's friends then had been bested in the argument. Yet they could not concede that Job was right. They just refused to speak anymore about it. And a lot like human nature. So they weren't able to find a fault, but they did not want to speak anymore concerning it. So now we come to verse 4. Elihu, Elihu hika et Iyov bidvarim, ki zekinav hema mimenu leyamim. Now Elihu had waited. Hika had waited to speak to Job. Hika is from haka, to wait. It's a PL perfect third masculine singular from haka, that he had waited. Elihu had waited to speak with words with Job. Et Yov with Job, bid varim with words. Ki Zekenim Hema, because they were older. They were older, and hence, uh, in that culture, when you're older, you normally should have more wisdom. And so, because they were Zekenim, older, Mimenu, they were older than him, from him. Notice here, min, the noon has assimilated into this second mem, and the n is a hinge, and who is your pronominal suffix third masculine singular, where the hey by reverse assimilation has gone back into the noon. So they were older than him 4 days, or la yamim. In other words, they were older for their days that they had lived than Elihu. And so Elihu then holds back. Due to courtesy and respect for those older than himself, Elihu waited until all the others had finished their discourses before speaking. You know, what a different culture that we find here at this point than often we see today, where if you're younger, most people look to youth, and old age does not, in the minds of many, carry wisdom. What a different world. And certainly, Elihu, would that we had some of that today, where there would be a respect for the older people. Then in verse 5, Vayar Elihu ki ein ma'aneh befi sheloshet ha'anashim v'yichar apo. And when Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these men, these 3 men, there was no answer, then his wrath was kindled. Yechar, his wrath, it was kindled. Here we have Vayar is from the root ra'ah, to see, a lamed hey verb. It's a cow imperfect, third masculine singular, preceded by the vav conversive. So Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of the 3 men that were debating with Job. Vayichar apo, and his wrath was kindled. From chara, the cow imperfect third masculine singular. So when he was waiting because he was younger, his wrath became more kindled at their inability to really answer Job or to give any reason for his suffering. So in verse 6, it reads, Vaya'an Elihu ben Barachel Habuzi Vayomer. That is, Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, answered and said. Vaya'an is from Anna, a lamed hey verb. It's the cow imperfect third masculine singular from Anna with a vav conversive. So Elihu answered, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, and said. Vayomer is the cow imperfect third masculine singular from Amar. I am young. Sa'ir ani layamim. I am young for days. Va'atem yeshishim. But you are old. Al kain zachalti ve'ira. Wherefore, I restrained, or I held back, and I was afraid to declare my opinion. Uh, in other words, to declare my opinion with you because of my age. And you were older. And again, we see that respect for the aged here. As we look at verse 7, then, notice his feeling had been that age rather than youth should speak. So he held back. It's interesting, the zachal, to hold back. The root meaning in Hebrew is to crawl, implying a slow progress. Because of his youth, Elihu was like crawling or holding back from speaking. Zachalti is from zachal, and to hold back. And here we have a cow perfect first common singular from zachal, or to crawl. Va'ira, and I was afraid from speaking or declaring my opinion with you. Va'ira is from yara, it's the cow imperfect first common singular from yara, and I was afraid, mehavot, from declaring or to declare. Chava means to uh, declare, uh, and here we have chavod is a PL infinitive construct preceded by mem, so meaning from literally to declare or from declaring my opinion with you. So I held back because of my youth. Verse 7, Amarti Yamim Yedaberu. I said, days should speak. Amarti is the cow perfect first common singular from Amar. I said, Yamim, days, Yedaberu, days should speak. That is the aged that had more days. Yedaberu is from Dabar. It is a PL imperfect, third common or third masculine plural from Dabar. Notice it has a Shava Patha followed by the doubling of the middle radical in the bait. So days should speak. V'rov shanim yodiu hokmah, and that is, and the multitude of years should teach or make known wisdom. The aged should be the ones that should teach wisdom. Yodiu is from yada, and here we have a hifil imperfect, third common or third masculine plural from yada. Historically, it would have been vada, and yavdihu became yodihu in this hifil stem with that type of change from an AW to a long O vowel, a whole. So, years, the multitude of years should teach wisdom or cause to teach wisdom. So in verse 8, after again emphasizing that it had been age, his feeling had been that age rather than youth should speak. We now come to verse 8, and it reads, Achen ruach he be'anosh, but it is a spirit in man. V'nishmat Shaddai tevinem, and the breath of the Almighty that gives understanding. Um, Here we have that gives them understanding. Uh, it's the God's breath or God's spirit that gives understanding, and He has breathed into man the breath of life, and man became a speaking or intelligent being. And so the breath, Nishmat Shaddai, Tevin name, should give them understanding. From being to understand, it's the cow imperfect third feminine singular in being, followed by the pronominal suffix third masculine plural in the aim. And so as we look at the sort of a commentary, Elihu claims inspiration as a divinely commissioned messenger to Job. This claim, and we see this reiterated in chapter 33, verse 6 to 23. This claim is not contradicted in 42. His statement simply implies that old age, with its accompanying wisdom, is not the only source of understanding. In this regard, we might parallel a text like Proverbs 2:6 and John 20:22. So then, the Spirit of God, he is saying, is what gives wisdom to man. And it is such wisdom that Elihu claims to have. Not necessarily days, although that often gives wisdom, but if the Spirit of God is there. My mind goes back to Genesis, where God breathed into man the Nishmat Chayim, the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Targum rendered that man became a speaking being, looking at God's breath that gives wisdom to speak and utter truth and so forth. So we now come to verse 10. Therefore, Lachain Amarti Shim'ali, therefore I say, listen to me. Shim'u or Shim'ah from Shama, a cow imperative, uh, masculine singular from Shama. So listen to me. I say, Amarti is from Amar, the cow perfect first common singular from Amar. And I also, Ha-chaveh de'i af ani, and I will declare my opinion. Indeed, I will. Achaveh is from chava, to make known or declare. Here we have a PL imperfect, first common singular from chava. Notice the doubling of the middle radical, and you have the hatef pathak, the hurried pathak, followed by the pathak, and then the doubling of the middle radical, indicative of a PL stem. So what he's really saying here, his opinion, is the knowledge that has been given him by God's Spirit. And so he wants to declare it. Behold, Hein hochalti ledivrechem. Behold, I waited. I was caused to wait, or I waited for your words. Azin, I listened. Ad tevu notechem. I listened for your reasons while you searched out what to say. Ad takarun milin. While you searched out words. So here we have Ohalti, I waited, a hifil, a perfect first common singular from Yachal. I waited for your words. and I listen from Zan. I listen for your reasons that you would give while you searched out what to say. Ad takarun milin, literally, while you searched out words to say. Uh, Hakar means to search. And so I waited while you searched out words to communicate an answer. And Elihu was present, it seems, from the beginning. How many days went by before he began to speak is uncertain. He must have had a great deal of patience to wait until all their arguments had been given. He had waited for good arguments concerning Job's problem, but he was left disappointed. He didn't find good arguments. So he continues in verse 12. Va'adichem et bonan, therefore I attended unto you, or I gave understanding unto you. Et bonan is a hitpolel, um, imperfect, first common singular from being. So a hitpolel. So I was attended unto you, and v'hine ein le'iyov mochicha. And lo, or behold, there was none that convinced Job. Ein le'iyov mochicha. There was none that was able to convince him. Mochicha is from Yachach. It's a hifil participle masculine singular from Yachach. So there was none that convinced Job or that answered Oneh Amarin Michem. None that answered his words among you. There was none who was answering. Oneh is from Anah, the cow participle masculine singular. None who was answering his words. Yet I waited. And so it looks like what he's really saying here is, I kept waiting. God has heard Job express his thought that he scrutinized Job to see if he slips. Job has accused God of putting his feet in stock. And so he goes on to talk about how he waited for an answer, but he couldn't find one. Yea, I attended unto you, va'adechem et bonan, and behold, there was none that convinced Job, and or that answered his words among you. Beware lest you say, we have wisdom. Pen tomru matzanu chokmah. Beware lest you say, from Amar, it's the cow imperfect, third or second masculine plural from Amar. Beware lest you say, we have found wisdom. Matzanu from matzah, it's the cow perfect, first person plural, that we have found wisdom. God may vanquish him. Ad yitfenu lo ish. God may vanquish him, not man. Notice as he continues here, God, being the great one he is, he will not answer you as expected, reasoned Eliphaz, but he will deal with Job. And so in verse 4, Verse 14, Velo arak Eli milin. For he has not directed his words against me. U ve'imrechem lo ashivenu. Neither will I answer him with your speeches, nor with your words will I answer him. Arak is just your cow perfect third masculine singular, and neither will I answer him with your speeches or with your words. I will not return an answer to him. Ashivenu, I will not cause to return. Hifil, imperfect first common singular, with the pronominal suffix in the u here, third masculine singular. So neither will I answer him with your speeches. So Elihu goes on to state that God, although unseen, speaks in ways to make his presence realized. It may be through dreams by which God speaks, or again through trials. And so in the next verse, it reads, verse 15, Hatu lo anu od. They were amazed. They answered no more. Echtiku mehim milim. Words have departed from them. Here we have chata, to be amazed, the cow perfect third common plural. They were amazed. They did not answer him again. From Anna, the cow perfect third person plural, from Anna. And words are departed from them, are caused to depart. Etiku, from atak, to depart. Hifil, perfect third person plural, from atak. So words are departed from them. And basically in verse 15, he is going to probably talk about how God is going to speak in ways that they have not spoken. And so he says, verse 16, Behohalti ki lo yedaberu. And I shall wait because they speak not. Ki amadu lo anu od. Because they stand still and answer no more. So I will wait. I will cause to wait. Hifil, perfect, a first common singular from Yachal, because they do not speak. Yedaberu is the PL imperfect, third masculine or common plural from dabar. Notice the shavah patak, doubling of the middle radical in the bait. Because they speak not, because they stand still and answer no more. Ki amadu lo anu od. Amadu is from amad again, cal perfect third common plural from amad, and they answer no more. So I also will answer for my part. Aneh af ani chelki. I will answer for my part. Ahaveh dei af ani. And I will declare my opinion. Indeed, I will declare my opinion. Ahaveh is from chava, to declare. PL imperfect first common singular from chava. So I will declare my opinion, for I'm full of words and I'm ready to speak. So I think what is really being said here is that basically, he's going to share his opinion. And he has been waiting to do that. And so he's going to talk about what his idea is. Since the friends have not given a good answer, he said, Ki maleti milim, I am full of words. Malah is full. It's a cow perfect first common singular from malah. I am full of words, and the spirit within me constrains me to speak. Etsikatni ruach bitni. The spirit within me is constraining me or causes me to be constrained. And so I must speak. And we're going to see his speech starting in chapter 33. So verse 19, Hine bitni kayayin lo yipatea. Behold, my inward parts are as wine which has no vent. My inward parts are as wine which has not been opened or which has no vent. And so Elihu has been holding back, and he's gotten to the point where he has to speak like new wine skins which are ready to burst. Ke'ovod chadashim yebakehu. Yebakehu is from baka. It's a nifal imperfect third masculine singular. So my new wineskins are ready to be to break open, to burst. So I will speak. Adabra vayirvach li. I will speak and find my relief. Adabra again is the PL imperfect first common singular from dabar. Let me speak is the idea. And I will find my relief. Cow imperfect third masculine singular from ravah. I will open my lips and answer. Eftach sefatai va'ana. Eftach is the cow imperfect first common singular from patach. I will open my lips and I will answer. Ve'et aneh from ana, the cow imperfect first common singular to answer. So I'm going to open my mouth and I'm going to give answer and share basically my opinion, what I believe and what I feel. So we continue then in verse 21. Al now esa penei. Now let me, I pray you, let me not now lift up the face of a man or respect anyone else's opinion. I'm going to give what I believe is truth from God. Esa is from nasa, pay noon verb, a cow imperfect first common singular from nasa. So I will not lift up the face of a man or respect the face of a man. But el adam lo achaneh, nor will I give titles that sort of like flattering titles. Uh, he wants to be sincere, and he's not going to give titles of people that might uh, have a title. It's interesting, verse 21, he intends to be candid and sincere. And he's not going to appear to give a reference to anyone's position or title, no matter how great it might be. Uh, For I know not to give flattering titles. Ki lo yadati achaneh. I cannot give flattering titles to give my speech. I'm going to give it from the Lord Himself. Kimat yasa'eni oseni. Or else my Maker, the one who made me, would soon uh, take me away. Yasa'eni is from nasa, Penun verb, cow imperfect, third masculine singular, followed by the pronominal suffix, first person singular, and oseni is the cow participle, masculine singular from asa, followed by the pronominal suffix in the e. And so his thought here in 22 seems to be that basically I am not going to appeal to titles or anything like that. He's going to simply speak the truth. And as I summarize this section that I've been looking at, Elihu warns his debaters that they did not find wisdom to refute Job. So he's not going to follow the speech of his three friends. They have failed. And furthermore, since Job's friends have failed and have been silenced, Elihu has to speak. Elihu, in contrast to his friends, though, still has much to say. He is like new wine, which, while still in the state of fermentation, does not have a way of releasing the pressure. He is almost bursting to speak. I'm sort of summarizing what we've been looking at. So Elihu in verses 21 to 22 alludes to Job's words going back to chapter 13, 8, and 10, where he complains that his friends twist the truth to fit their conclusion. Elihu says that he will not do this. He will act impartially between God and Job. He will not flatter anyone in order to gain friends. In other words, if he did that, God would have a right to punish him because he would not be obeying God and speaking the truth. That seems to be the summary of the verses that we have looked at to bring us to the end of chapter 32. And God Himself has given Elihu wisdom, he says, to be able to intervene and give an answer to something that his friends were not able to do. So next time, I'm going to pick up in 33 and continue where we will introduce Elihu's first speech. I got